Justin Smith, a Tampa-based entrepreneur and the founder of Cray, a dating safety app created from an incredibly difficult personal experience. After being completely blindsided at the end of an 8-year relationship, Justin found himself trying to understand how he had missed the warning signs and how he could stop other people going through similar experiences. That experience eventually led him to create Cray, an app designed to help people recognize red flags, identify potentially manipulative behavior, and make safer, more informed decisions when dating. So today we're going to talk about Justin's story, what rebuilding after a relationship trauma looked like for him, and how something so painful ultimately became the motivation to create something that could help so many other people. So Justin, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wow. So I always ask the same question, but actually lately I've realized that this question is a bullshit question, but I'm gonna roll with it and you can answer it any way you want. Who is Justin?
Someone who likes to have a positive impact on the world and who doesn't take life too seriously unless I have to. So as you can tell from the branding of the app, humor is enormous to me. I mean, the mascot, is a funny looking mascot. And I think that's just been one of my qualities that's helped me get through a lot of the rough parts in life.
Trauma with humor.
Yeah, because I
Amazing.
realized, well, yeah, because if you're going through some bad stuff, like making jokes about it while you're dealing with it helps add some levity. It takes away the sting a little bit.
You
So,
can either laugh or cry, and the only thing that I've turned most of my trauma into humor. So that's what's worked for me. So I think I'm meeting more and more people recently that do the same. So it seems to be a thing.
yeah, because it's a choice, really. Am I gonna sit here and be sad, or am I gonna try and get myself out of this ordeal I'm going through? And humor is a great way to distract yourself from the pain, so that you can just focus on getting things done.
So has Justin always been that person, or was before the relationship a different Justin?
Oh, I was definitely. If you saw a picture of me before, nowadays, I look a lot different. Like I actually yesterday just bumped into a woman I used to work with at the business I spent 10 years working at, and I went up to her and I said hi, and she looked at me and she's like, "Hi, how are you?" And I'm like, "It's Justin." Oh my God, there was just such a reaction because the difference in what I look like before and after what my ex did to me or the impact it had on me. I was the dressed really nice professional looking, that type of look, and now people think I am a little scary if I'm walking on the street at night. So
Wow.
it's it's a much different look because when you go through something traumatic, it hardens you.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you have to wear a leathery exterior to be able to survive the issues in this world.
And you didn't have that experience before. Was everything like pretty plain sailing, and most of your traumatic experiences have come from this thing?
No, but I would say that this experience is what pushed me over the edge
Yeah.
into having and going through a really tough time and literally almost dying. I mean, I lost 40 pounds in 2 months. My resting heart rate was between 100 and 110 beats per minute. My blood pressure was 180 over 120, even on medication. So, like, I literally, my body was shutting down. And so, facing that is a really tall task and pulling yourself out of that to recover. So, it takes a lot out of you. I mean, it's just
It's
this.
crazy the impact that it has on your body. I know so many people with PTSD and the other one as well, and they have autoimmune diseases and lots of other things. Your body takes such a whack. Sometimes not even at the time. Sometimes it takes a while, and then everything just falls apart. It's amazing now. I know it's sensory system and nervous system linked, and everything. But at the time, I didn't understand what I was going through, and I couldn't understand why it's having such an impact on my physical and my mental health. But now I've done the self work, and I've learned a lot about it. There's such a massive correlation.
Oh, absolutely. And especially if you're someone who internalizes everything like
Yeah,
I am, that's why I had such issues with my appetite, for the last 2 years, is because when you're so stressed out, the somatic issues manifest themselves in different ways, whether it's
yeah,
a lack of sleep, whether it's, feeling burned out because of all the adrenaline dumps that you're having from all the, chaos in these very stressful situations. And especially if you're having people who are trying to kick the hornet's nest and make your life, stressful, it's really hard to manage, but you have to find little tools to kind of get around it.
so can I ask you, for anyone that doesn't know, some background of what happened?
You mean in my life or in terms of
it,
my
it
ex?
I'm guessing, in if you think it's relevant, then your life, whatever you want to go into. And because for me, I've had bad relationships, awful ones that have left me in a bad way, and like I've needed mental help and stuff after them. But I feel like a lot of them relationships was brought on by the fact that I had very low self-worth. My childhood was at times it was good, but I had bad experience in childhood that really affected my mental health. Um, and I feel like that affected my self-worth. So when I attracted people, I was willing to accept the bare minimum. So they would show me their red flags, but instead of saying, oh my God, red flag, I'm running in this direction, I would say, let me hold your red flags and I will fix them for you and I will make you feel better. And that was my problem. So, if you feel like anything is relevant to that, then you say exactly what you want. But what happened? What caused you to feel like this, and then caused you to start this whole new business? What was it? What was the thing?
Well, I I think from a young age I had not been treated how I should have been,
Hmm.
and when I went and told my caretakers about what had happened to me, the reaction I got was not one of holding and protecting. It was more so like, "Are you sure that happened?
Yeah,
Why aren't you over it? Like, why can't, why is this such a big deal?"
yeah,
And I think that lasted into my adulthood, where, the message I was given was, "You're not important, you're not worth protecting." And so then I found women who carried that same mentality,
yeah,
because if the message you get from a young age is you're not worth protecting, you're going to go find someone who doesn't protect you, who doesn't think you're a big deal, who, these actions don't look like red flags to a person who grew up in that environment.
yeah,
And that's one of the challenges is, if you grow up in a really tough environment or treated a certain way, that's going to be what feels comfortable to you. And that's going to be the situation or environment you're kind of naturally drawn to, unless you do the work and heal, and that's why one of the things I bring up is people have to make sure they're ready to date, because if you're not, you're going to be bringing in all that baggage from your last relationship or all your personal issues of inadequacy or lack of self-security, and that's not good.
yeah. I think that's completely relevant because, when I grew up, my parents, they're great people and they're great parents, but they didn't have a healthy relationship with themselves or with each other. And as I grew older, I thought they were normal. So I wanted to recreate what my parents had. I wanted that kind of family that they had, even though it was very unhealthy. It's just what I thought was normal. So I went about trying to create the same thing, where my siblings worked out it wasn't normal and they didn't want to emulate that, and therefore it's gone very different for them. So I do think it's quite normal to emulate what you've seen, and we've internalized when you told your parents something that had happened and they made you feel like, you know, you should be over it or etc., I think that gave you a grade for life. It set a bar for you, like you should be over it and you're not worth discussing it or going into. So therefore you've internalized that your whole life and carried that around.
Yeah, and even worse on top of it, the person who caused me the pain as a child was then put in a position to keep victimizing me. So it was like this rehashing of the same wound
Yeah.
multiple times in my life. And so that made it even more difficult, um, because it's kind of like being forced to stay in a room with your abuser and, being told that you have to be the one to play nice, even though this person has repeatedly victimized you. So there's just a lot to get over in terms of that,
That's
and
gaslighting to the nth degree, and that fucks with anyone's mind. It fucks with grown adults' minds, and sometimes people are never the same after that. Sometimes people don't make it, so no wonder people come away from that situation not feeling okay.
Yeah, and it's tough when you grow up in that situation. I think that the challenge is that this is the environment you know. Like, this is what you've seen since birth. And so to start noticing how messed up it is takes a lot of effort to really notice those things that are kind of off and are messing with your life.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really great once you finally have that awakening and you realize the situation you're in, because you can finally start making the right decisions based on the right evidence, and
The
it comes.
self-work is amazing, and it's brought me to the most amazing realizations that I would have never been brought to before. Like, everyone used to say, do self-work and you'll feel better. And I used to think, what the fuck, self-work, what? But now I've been on that journey. I couldn't recommend it enough. But unfortunately, I had to be broken at the brokenest bottom to do that self-work on myself. And because some people never get round to doing it, or they use a crutch like alcohol or drugs or etc. And it often can't be done when you've got them things to fall back on. So if you're lucky enough to be able to do self-work, I think it's so important, but you have to be at the right place to do it for you. Because if you said to me about self-work 10, 20 years ago, I would have said, don't be, like, you're talking rubbish. Like, what is that? The same with mindfulness and everything else. It wasn't something I understood. So when you got into your adult life, how did you meet this partner?
We met on a dating app, which in hindsight, I think dating apps are kind of, for lack of a better term, it's like when you go to the grocery and there's still all that produce on the shelf that no one's taken off the shelf to buy because it's damaged or bruised or
Yeah.
it's, not in a good condition. And I feel like online dating is kind of like that, because people who have a good social support system, people who have family, people who have a good, group of friends, they naturally meet partners and date people because you just naturally meet them, whether it's at your workplace or school or whatever else.
Mm.
Um, Dating apps aren't like that. The people who can't find people through those normal methods rely on dating apps. And so it creates this kind of unhealthy situation where it's either damaged people that, shouldn't be dating who are on the shelf still, or it's people who are manipulators trying to get something out of someone, whether that's attention or money or whatever else. So the risk on the dating apps is a lot higher than I think people realize, because you're stepping into the situation with someone who doesn't even really want a real relationship maybe, or who isn't in a place to really date healthy.
I can see that completely. It's a breeding ground for an echo chamber of shit. I get that 100%. It would be ideal if people could meet people organically. I've got two adult sons. One's trans, so I've got, anyway, I always say to them, how do you even meet someone? Because my children are neurodivergent, so they like to spend a lot of time at home. they're not very sociable. Luckily, they haven't really yearned for a relationship the way that I did when I was younger. So I don't think it's been an issue so far. But when it comes to meeting people, I can't see how they would do that. They work from home. They're pretty, hermit-like. So I do get why neurodivergent people, or more introverted people, would like to meet people online. But I think that becomes even more dangerous then, because them vulnerable, introverted, neurodivergent people, and I'm not saying all neurodivergent people are vulnerable, some neurodivergent people are bricks, but them people meet up with the people that want to do it undercover behind their wife's back, want to manipulate, want to be able to just turn the phone off and get back to their real life. Then you're putting them people together. And I'm not saying all of them, because there might be some innocent people online. But when you put them together, that is a recipe for disaster. Someone's going to get taken advantage of.
Yeah, I think that also there's the piece of it that people these days, their social skills aren't as good, especially for that generation you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so that presents another problem for them. As a person who meets that criteria, they're not going to be able to talk to people, to socialize and ask them out
Yeah.
for drinks or do something that back in our generation, it was just normal. Like you watch videos back from when I was in high school in the 90s, people acted weird. They acted different. They owned
Are
who they
you not the
were.
same age as me, Justin? I'm going to be 40 in November. Are we about the same sort of age?
I'll say about the same. I'm
Yeah,
40. I'm 46, so
we're
ballpark-ish.
so I thought maybe you were younger. So you remember a time where there was no internet and things were so different.
It's crazy. Like to think about how easily people would meet new people back when we were younger, because
Yeah,
it was a situation where you'd go to the mall and you'd hang out all day at the mall,
yeah.
and like you had to talk to people to get interaction or have something going on.
Now you
Um,
don't even have to leave the house for 2 weeks. You can get your dinner brought to you. You can, nothing. You don't have to do nothing.
well, and even worse, the social construct that's being created online is a very imbalanced echo chamber of women getting just told they're gorgeous, they're amazing, let me shower you in gifts. And it creates this unrealistic expectation that that's how a woman should be treated at all times. And it creates the unrealistic expectation that, and this sounds bad, so I apologize, someone who's a 5 feels like they're an 8. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
because there's such an abundance of men that are online throwing money or attention at women, it creates this like unrealistic expectation that, women who are in those situations are getting a lot more attention than they might in real life in person.
I think on the internet, people, they lose their inhibitions, and I I've never really received any dodgy messages, but I kind of carry myself in a very different way. I am very modest. I'm always covered up, and not saying that women that aren't like that should receive them messages, but I kind of never put myself out there like that. I'm kind of boy-like, and so I don't receive any strange messages. But I think now people have no inhibitions. I have a lot of friends who receive disgusting messages from people on a daily basis, and I think it's that you could be in the other side of the world and send me it, and then you will get no consequences. People have no inhibitions now. Before, to send someone a dodgy message, there was no message. You'd have to walk up to them and do it, and then you'd probably get arrested. Now I can shoot someone a message of my bits and pieces, and they're in China, and I could send them to 20 people. The world is crazy different because of it.
Yeah, it is. And you even have people who now are using AI filters on video chat to pretend they're someone else.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I mean, we live in a world where you cannot trust that the person you're talking to is who they say they are anymore. We're just not in that world
Even I've
anymore.
got a filter now, so I have a clear skin lighting filter. But the when I look through the filters, the amount of filters that you can adapt. I use the most natural one, but you can adapt. You can be anyone. You can. I watched a documentary. I'm big on documentaries, and I watched a documentary of a man in another country, and he was selling his services, his sexual services online, but he had a persona of a woman and a body of a woman. It was just an app that can change him into that. So these people were just talking to a man and thinking that they was a beautiful, like 25-year-old woman. That is scary.
It is, but I think it also says something about our society too, that we have turned into this society where we need to consume content by these random people and idolize or celebritize them into this,
Yeah.
ideal whatever.
I get that, because before I started doing my, ADHD and my podcast, I wasn't someone that had social media. I had WhatsApp, and I didn't have my picture. I wasn't comfortable with anything like this. It's just not my thing. And when people would post photos, it would make me cringe, and I'd think, why are you posting? I even say it to my daughter, like, why would you post photos? You don't need someone else's validation. But I've realized now, as a woman, doing social media or trying to progress with my podcast, people like that sort of thing, and you can't progress, unfortunately, without it. And I can see why people go down the route of taking their clothes off more and trying to get more likes, because it's hard out there. When I tried to launch first time, I didn't have my picture. I just done voiceovers. It didn't work for me. I was fighting a losing battle. Then when I released my face, and more people gave me attention. So it's a like damned if you do and a damned if you don't. It goes against everything that I think is a natural thing, but it's a scary world. So people are kind of dragged into this new way of life, and they're very vulnerable because our brain hasn't been built for this.
Yeah, well, and especially when you think about girls that are 16 to 18 years old and what's being shoved in their face as, you have these two paths. You can either go get a job in the real way and not earn that much money, or you could go do this thing where every man that has been trying to F you your whole life, you can now monetize it and turn it into a job and make money without really doing anything.
Mm.
And so when you give a young woman these options, and the young woman doesn't really have the wherewithal to understand that in the future that could come back to bite them in the ass,
Mm.
or that it could send them down a pathway that is going to be unhealthy for their development or their safety in the future, that's not a good situation, because it just appears like, oh, I could go get rich or I could not, and I could go do a different job where I don't get rich. And
I
that's
can
all
see
they
why
hear.
people fall for the trap, and I'm not saying people aren't happy doing that. I know someone that personally does that, and for now, they seem very happy. I can't say forever. It's not something that I would recommend for my daughter ever, but I can't discredit that there are some people doing OnlyFans and etc. that are happy, but it becomes so easy now to just earn money from doing that. And when you don't do that, people kind I don't know if people kind of don't respect it as much. I think it's a very easy road to go down because we've become so desensitized over time. Every year I see a change I've brought up children throughout different generations, and every year I see such a change, to the point where my 9-year-old daughter, the things that she's seen on YouTube was something I could have only dreamed of seeing at 9. They are desensitizing our kids quick time in front of our faces. So it must be a hard world for if you can turn down the temptations of doing things like that. I think it's amazing, but I can understand why people go down them routes.
Well, it's funny. I have a theory on this whole OnlyFans thing and why it's being pushed so heavily in our society.
Mm.
And I believe it's to turn women into sex trafficking victims. Because if you psychologically condition a woman to only look at men as financial, sources of income or, gaining money from them. Now every interaction you have with a man is, okay, if you want my presence, you have to give me money.
Mm.
Well, think about if you're a man who sex traffics women, who does that work out really well for? The sex traffickers. Because now all you have to do is throw a dollar number out, and they now know that it's a transactional relationship, and you can get whoever you want. All you have to do is go on a website and order them, so to speak, and they show up at your door. And now you can take them into your sex trafficking ring, and they'll never get seen again.
I guess that the world has geared up for that for its own benefits. I'm guessing, there's a method in the madness of what's happened in the world. There is a reason why the internet exists, and it's all towards a bigger picture. So I can understand why you're saying that completely. And life has become so transactional. There's nothing really that is untransactional anymore. And I do feel like women have been desensitized on purpose. So I come from a Muslim background. We cover our hair, some of us, we don't show our arms and legs and etc. And then we say we feel liberated. Well, some of us feel liberated because, you know what, when I go out covered up completely, I don't feel like anyone's looking at me. I feel like, whoo, I feel comfortable. And then I see some women out and they're dressed in heels and tight dresses, and I think, oh my God, I would hate to be like that because they must be so uncomfortable. And I see people wolf whistling them and etc. And I think like, wow. And they're looking at me thinking, oh, that poor girl, she's being controlled. And, other people are looking at them like that. So there is two flips of every coin, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's walking this world in a mindful and present way is challenging. And I feel like a lot of people walk this world just on autopilot. But if you stop and think about your decisions and the outcome you want in life, well, you quickly realize that in different ways we're out of our value set, out of alignment of where we want to be and what we believe in and kind of where we're living. That was one thing I realized one of the many things I realized coming out of treatment was just rebuilding yourself after an experience like that. You have to really be mindful and present about each decision you're making, which just brings awareness to what decisions you're even making in life and what the source of that is. Like, why, whose voice is that's driving me to make these unhealthy decisions? Is that my voice? Is it the caretakers from when I was younger? Is it from the people that were in my environment? So that's another interesting piece of it is, why are we showing up the way we are in the situation we're in?
Do you feel like you would have felt like this if you hadn't gone through that, both of them situations, and done the self-work? Or do you feel like the thing is you've been through these bad situations that have made you reevaluate and woken you up, and now you see things in a different light? Do you think that you would have been the same?
No, I think that the most recent experience with my ex-wife changed me for forever. Like when it happened, I kept saying to my family that I felt like it broke my brain. It felt like something like switched to my brain when it happened. Yeah. And now I look at life very differently. Every decision I make, I put through two lenses. The first being self-preservation. Is this decision going to harm me? Am I going to put myself in a vulnerable position where someone can hurt me? And decision number two is through self-respect or self-love. Is this decision something that is indicating to myself that I respect myself and I love myself? So if you put every decision between those two filters, now you're in a safe position no matter what happens. And now you'll walk away respecting yourself and feeling good about yourself no matter what happens. So the outcome afterwards from no matter what event occurs, you're in a good place. And it's really a very different way to look at your life, because let's say that partner who stabbed you in the back, whatever, had you looked at every decision through self-preservation, you might not have put yourself in a vulnerable position to get hurt in that way. So it has really helped me personally.
That was the thing I was going to ask you, because these things to me, I see where they come from. So it's hard where they've come from. They've come from really, really dark places. But now I feel like you are grown, you are self-aware, you're thinking about preserving yourself, and you weren't thinking about them things before. And I almost think sometimes people ask me, Ellie, you had that bad experience as a child with abuse and stuff, and would you change it? And it sounds sick or fucked up, but I'm not sure I would, because it's put me to be such an awake, aware person, such an empathetic person. I don't think I would be in this place without that experience. And I'm quite happy with the way I see the world now. So if you didn't think that you would be like that from that experience, so has good come from the bad experience for you?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I created Cray, so I feel that I took something that was a really painful experience and turned it into something good. Um, and I feel that I now have the opportunity to change the world with what I've built.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take that away. I wouldn't go back and not do it again just because of the fact that I don't think I ever would have built this had I not gone through what I did.
Yeah, I think everything's been written in that way, whether you believe in God or the universe or etc. I feel like there's wisdom in everything. And at the time you don't see that wisdom. Sometimes it takes you 30 years to think, oh shit, that's why that happened. But eventually it normally, hopefully, comes to fruition. So Cray came from an incredibly difficult period in your life. And can you tell us just briefly, not if it's painful for you, the kind of experience you had with her, how long you was with her, and after you broke up, did you straight away decide to build Cray, or was it a long old period?
Well, she kind of, from what the evidence shows, it appears that this is something that she planned years in advance. And
Yeah.
so it was like this escalation that she tried to create with a big blow up that was a sore topic in our relationship, something she had been emotionally abusive about for 8 years. And then all of a sudden she flipped the switch and, it was okay that she did it. Um, but going through that and realizing that things weren't adding up is when I started building Cray. Like, because I started trying to psychoanalyze her and diagnose her. Really, is where how it started. Because I
To
was
make
like,
to make sense of how someone could be so mean to you without them having a disorder.
not just that, but how it was more like, holy crap, how did we end up here? Like, how am
Mm.
I at this spot where she did all these things that I didn't pick up on? Like, I should have known. Like, I didn't want to get married a second time. I told everyone in my life, like, I'm not getting married again. F marriage after the first marriage. I don't want to do it again because it was already, I felt like I got baby trapped the first time because I did. And then the second time was even same kind of situation. But on top of it, she had plotted out years of just setting these, I don't want to say traps, but, building the situation a certain way so that when she did pull the trigger, it was going to be very difficult for me because, like, she, really made sure to bond with my daughter from the previous marriage and make sure they had a really tight relationship so that when she did blow up the marriage that my daughter was very attached to her and she was able to manipulate that and use that to her benefit. So once I started trying to diagnose this one, I realized that I missed a lot of red flags. And so that's when I started creating a list of all the red flags that I missed and other red flags that were out there in people's behavior. And once I started building that list, that's kind of how I started on Cray. Because it was like, holy crap, I have 40, 50 red flags. This is a lot. I bet there's got to be more. Let's, try and figure out the whole list. And then let's figure out other ways to kind of out people who are bad actors, people who are showing up inauthentically and lying to us or deceiving us in different ways to try and get in with us in a relationship.
So to
And so,
play devil's advocate, okay, so say we quantify red flags and we say there are 150 of them or something. Is every red flag a red flag to everyone?
So this is
And because some see where I'm going with this.
yeah. So I tell people that this isn't about, oh, you have this red flag, and this red flag. I'm
Because
not
we've
going to
all got
talk.
red flags. I mean, I've
Yes.
got a shitload, I'm sure.
Yes. And so it's more about being mindful and present in what's showing up in the relationship. And can you or the other partner learn from what's showing up in these reports and show up better?
Hmm.
Because the real goal is that everyone out there is their own snowflake of crazy. Everyone. I'm my own snowflake of crazy. I'm not saying I don't have red flags because trust me, after what I've been through, I have a ton. That's why I don't date seriously now. But this gives people objective data and information they can use to kind of, get some direction on where the relationship is headed, how they're driving the boat, if they want to drive in that direct. Like there's a lot of insights that can be gained.
Yeah.
Um, because I think we as partners don't treat dating as something that is a mindful experience. It's more like, how can I get my dopamine rush from,
You get
dating?
lost. You get lost in emotion. We've all been there, or most of us have been there. We get lost in the dopamine. We get lost in emotion. We get caught up. So I do understand that completely. For somebody hearing about Cray for the first time, explain to me how it works. Is it an app now?
It is. And I also have a
So
web
I could
version
download
too.
it.
Yeah, and I just updated it last week with a ton of new features, a new interface, and everything. But what it basically is it's a list of statements or questions that the app asks you about your partner, and you answer yes, no, or not sure. And at the end of the
Just the
questions,
three choices. Just yes, no, not sure. Okay.
yes. And then at the end of it, you get a free report. So the most of the app is free. You have 3 tests: the Cray score, schemer score, and Bay score. The Cray score is how many red flags are showing up in the relationship. It can be anything from they have DUIs and still drink heavily, to unkind in conflict, to they met me when I was a minor. Very different red flags. All of them matter, each with different weightings. And then the other one, schemer score, is signs of manipulation, deception, or financial fraud. So that's a list of, I think it's like 30 questions. And then the green flags are the BAE score, BAE, like my bae or my boyfriend,
Oh yeah, yeah,
girlfriend.
yeah.
So that's the green flags in the relationship, because I wanted people to get a whole picture, not just
Yeah.
what to look out for of the negative stuff, but also like these are the good qualities that are showing up. And then some of the other features that are in the app, I have to charge money because I have to pay money to access these.
Yeah.
The 2 new features we added are the photo scan and the combo scan. So you can import photos of a profile, pay 99 cents, and it analyzes them for red flags.
Hmm.
Or you can upload up to 5 pictures of a conversation, and it'll do the same thing and outline the red flags that are in the conversation for you. So the app is intended to give people a way to evaluate the way they're interacting with other humans and determine if it's something that's safe for them or something that feels right with objective, information around it.
So if I was to scan my conversation in, say I had a partner, I don't, and I never will again, thank God. But say if I had a partner and I was to scan my conversation in with them, does it read your data like AI and speak to you like, for example, ChatGPT would, and tell you this is alarming, this isn't healthy, and put all of the bullet points?
Yeah, and it would actually do it against the criteria of the Cray score and the schemer score.
Right.
So it's using the red flags I've built. So it looks at, I think there's,
Because, some people might just be having an off day. But if you balance that out with any red flags that I pointed out 20 minutes ago when I'd been asked the questions, then you get a bigger picture, I guess. Because I could show you just a snapshot from a really shit day where we had an argument, and you can't just base it on that, I guess.
Well, you could still base it, let's say they're being emotionally abusive.
Yeah,
The app points that out that, the great thing about it, think about it from a perspective of someone who's not trained in dating and you describe gaslighting to them.
yeah.
How are they going to know what that really is unless you're outlining an example of it and showing them that, look, this is gaslighting because of this, and this.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what the app does is it outlines,
Because
which
maybe
things
some
are.
people do that. I feel like, not all neurodivergent people, but some neurodivergent people take things at face value and don't see tricks, don't see it when somebody fucks with their mind or is extra affected by it. A lot of neurodivergent people get RSD. I don't know if you know what rejection sensitive dysphoria is. So they feel rejection really a lot and then they try and cling on to the person that's rejecting them. So I think sometimes it would be good, especially if you're dating online and you don't necessarily have a lot of people around you to point out of these things because you're dating online, maybe you need a brain to tell you, a brain, so to speak, to tell you there could be red flags.
Well, yeah, and it's funny. I've gotten some criticism online in the app reviews or in the app posting, because people say, "Why is an app like this necessary?" And I think most people,
Sadly,
well, but I think also people forget that if you think of the average person, and there's this funny comedian from the '90s, George Carlin, but he has this funny statement where he says, "Think of the average person in this country. Half the country is dumber than that person." So you, and I'm not saying that everyone who uses the app will be dumb, but you have to understand that there's certain people in this country, and there are a lot of them who don't have the sophistication of understanding these red flags and identifying them
I think even if you are the most intelligent person in the world, sometimes people it's not about being dumb. Sometimes it's completely the other way around as well. And I must say that sometimes people are just master manipulators and they do a good number on you, they do a good number on your family, they make you look crazy. So it's not even about a person being not as sophisticated, and I'm sure you know that anyway, not being sophisticated enough. Sometimes it's just shit.
well, and there's the cognitive dissonance thing too, that once we believe in something, it's very hard to get people to realize they made the wrong decision and that we were wrong in our thought process.
Mm.
And that's the big challenge too. And that's what I was saying about the half the people are dumber or whatever. And it doesn't matter if you're dumb or smart. Like, I'm a smart person. I got completely swindled by this woman for,
Mm.
8 years. So I completely agree. It's not necessarily an intelligence issue.
Yeah, because I don't think you could even quantify intelligence. You've got lots of other things going on attribute wise that aren't, I guess, IQ or etc. So yeah, I understand that. Who makes the questions? What
I
did you make them you personally? Do they come from a psychological point of view?
so both. I made all the questions, but they were geared at psychological constructs. Those psychological constructs, one could argue, are the signs and symptoms of a lot of major psychological disorders. So, if you think about it, most bad behaviors that people have are diagnostic of something else. So, like people who, let's say, are narcissists, that's likely diagnostic that they grew up in a life where they were minimized and they didn't have, you know what I mean? So there's like certain things that show up, but that narcissistic piece also is a piece of narcissistic personality disorder. So each of those red flags, one could argue, are signs and symptoms of other psychological disorders like sociopathy, psychopathy, narcissistic personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. But there's other red flags that show up in there too, like grooming and some other things that don't go to psychological disorders. So that's why I say I really sat and thought through this from a lot of different perspectives, because the negative outcomes in a relationship, the source of them are due to different reasons. It could be because someone is emotionally unhealthy, could be because they just are financially gaming you. It could be because they just want dopamine rush. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons.
There's so many variables. And I think, yes, quintessentially, I can see the reasoning behind this app, and I can see why a lot of people would need it. But being me that plays devil's advocate, I have to ask, if you're writing the questions, the same way if I'm writing the questions, my standards are very different to everyone else's. You know, I find some things a red flag that people are like, no, Ellie, you're just uptight. That's not a red flag. So from whose perspective do you write the questions of the red flag? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why I said the signs and symptoms. That's what it gets at,
Yeah.
because every red flag is a real red flag or issue that someone is having an unhealthy thing showing up.
Yeah.
So whether that is the drinking while having a history of DUIs,
Yeah, you can't even
whether
argue with
that,
that. Yeah.
no, and each of them in there, this is where the weighting of the questions comes in. There is a big difference between someone not texting you back versus someone who doesn't respect your boundaries during physical intimacy. Those are very different experiences, and one of those will trigger an immediate runaway in the app, because it should be. It should be something that if that happens, that's a line in the sand. You should get the F out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one thing I try and explain to people about the red flags, is that each of them is there for a very good reason, but they're treated very differently. And so it's not that I came up with these questions like, let
From
me
your
see
own
what.
perspective, because mine would, you know, if someone allowed me to make an app from my own perspective, you know, we're all going to have very different answers, because I find some things like a red flag, and some people just think, Ellie, like, you're autistic. That is not a red flag for neurotypical people.
Yeah, and the app, the ones that are treated the most important, I'll use that, the heaviest weighted. The top tier is anything that's a threat to your physical safety. The
Yeah.
tier below that is anything that's to your emotional safety.
Yes, and you can't fuck with that. A red flag with them things, I guess, are a red flag. You know, someone puts their hands up to you, that is an obvious red flag all around the globe. That one,
Yes.
you cut that. These are given red flags, so they're not gray area red flags.
Yes, and that's one thing I wanted to focus on, because in my mind, in my head, I was like, well, crap, what if someone takes this to court? What if this goes to court for whatever
This
reason?
was another question. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way I've weighted everything, I don't think anyone could defend this app said I'm a bad person because I have all these DUIs, or that, it's not really rating the people, it's rating the relationship anyways, because as you know from dating, how someone shows up in one relationship is very different than how they show up in another relationship, because the chemistry of people's personalities is just very different.
100%. Sometimes people can be the nicest people apart, but toxic together. And it's just because that mesh of people doesn't work. So I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and so it's the app does a great job of identifying red flags, as long as your mind's in a place to be answering the questions honestly and truthfully. And that's another one of the inherent weak points of the app, is that you have to be honest with yourself and what's kind of the situation. And if you're not good about being honest with yourself, that's not going to be a good outcome. You're not going to be able
Yeah.
to answer the questions truthfully, because you're lying to yourself, because you don't want to,
100%. At
own it.
times in my life, I would have bullshitted them questions, and I would have believed that I was even telling the truth. You know, one of them ones. I would have told myself it was completely true, even though I knew in the back of my head it wasn't. I would have bullshit my own self into thinking it. So I completely understand that people do that. Can anything bad come from the app?
Uh, I don't want to say no because I'm sure in some scenario someone could try and use the app to control their partner or gaslight their partner.
Hmm.
Because if someone is that type of person, anyways, it wouldn't matter if the app existed or not. It would just
They will
be,
find a way.
yeah. And I would say the other weak point, as I mentioned, was people not being honest and answering it. Uh, I don't see giving people objective information to evaluate their relationship with is going to be something that causes a lot of bad. I just don't see it. I could see the outcome being that it might break people up,
Yeah.
but that's going to be a better outcome in a lot of places if you guys aren't a good match and you guys don't have a healthy relationship. The ideal outcome is to help people be more of a self advocate in their dating experience and own their own crap, when they show up to date, and help them have a better relationship by having the right questions to ask. You know what I mean?
Has the app gained a lot of, how long's it been out? Has it gained a lot of popularity? Have you had good feedback from some
Yes.
people?
So the app launched in October of 25.
Mm.
So we have about 1,000 users right now, and we've signed 15 colleges up as partners. So they're going to be promoting the app to their students, and then we
Wow.
have yeah, and then we have another 8 to 9 brand ambassadors at other colleges, and the total student population of those colleges is about 550,000 people. So the goal is
There's
to get in.
scope.
Yeah, so the goal is to get in front of as many students as possible and build partnerships with colleges. Because I've created a tool that now, as an 18-year-old leaves their parents' house and moves to campus and has no understanding of the dangers of this world, they open up my app and answer questions about the people they're meeting, and all of a sudden they now have all the tricks outlined that they should be looking out for. They have all the toxic behaviors in a relationship,
That they
and they
might
have
not want to ask their parents.
well, and yeah, they don't want to ask their parents or they don't want to ask their friends, and it allows them to have more transparency about the relationship and what they're getting advice on. So that's the great thing about the app, and the colleges have really enjoyed having a product like this that they can finally make dating safety fun to their students. And so that's been one of the cool things is creating those partnerships, sending them merch, helping with the promotion and that kind of stuff.
Is there, is it just a partner thing, or could you do it on a friend? Is there, it can
So
go anywhere in any direction, I guess.
yeah, so one of the things I pivoted to about three,
If
four
it,
months ago. Yeah, that's a term in the startup
sorry.
communities. Yeah, in
It's
the startup.
I watched Friends for a lot of years and I've used the word pivot
Uh,
all my life.
so in the startup world, pivoting means where you have one business idea and it's taking a direction, and you realize that if you change the direction just a little bit, you'll
Yeah.
have more success. But I realized that with the app, it wasn't just a dating tool. This was something that if I tweaked the questions a little bit,
Transferable.
it is now something you could use on friends. It's something you could use on your boss. It's something you could use on a classmate or a roommate. And so it now is an app that you can answer questions about a romantic or a non romantic partner, someone you've met in person or not met in person. So now it changes the questions into questions that are applicable for each of those situations. So this is an app that is a student safety app, is how we've kind of couched it or termed it, because it's really about making the students more safe by providing them with the right criteria to look at their new friendships or partnerships through.
Yeah, it is amazing. So what happens if somebody takes the test and it comes out everything's a red flag, it's the most dire situation ever? Is there aftercare advice, or do you just leave them and tell them this is a, or AI leave them, or the app, this is a bad situation, you must get out. Is there any follow-up aftercare? I know you can't personally reach out to everyone, but is there any advice lines attached to it and etc.?
So a prompt comes up and it says, "Do you want us to dial 911 when they hit the highest level?" And
Yeah.
or you should reach out to your support system. Additionally, in the app, in the settings menu, there is a link to domestic violence resources. The hotline.org, I think, is the address we link to, because I felt that people needed those resources at that catch point. Like if
Yeah.
someone's coming to the app because they are having a bad experience and they're hoping for guidance, it would be horrible just to leave them off after we say, yeah, you are in a fucked up situation. Too
Yeah.
bad, you know? So I wanted the prompt to come up. There's an SOS button in the top right corner in the app so that people can call the police if they're feeling unsafe. Safety is the main goal of the app. So I wanted to make sure that I created all those catch points for people, because the worst thing that I could do would be to identify that there is a problem and then just abandon them and
Not
not.
give them a solution.
Yeah, because what the hell, what's the point of the app if I'm not giving people the solution? I mean, that is the whole point of it, right? To be the
Yeah.
solution in solving this problem.
Do you have data to tell you, is it mostly a woman thing that is using the app? Is it men that are using the app too? Non-binary? Like, what's your kind of goal people, or what's the kind of people that are using it?
Well, I think the ideal population is 18 to 24 is
Hmm.
kind of what I give the target, but the app can be used for anyone in any age.
I
Uh,
know I know 45-year-olds that would need it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about it is even though it's made for young people, it works for everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, you said the target people, it is college kids. There was a question before that. Sorry, I my
Let me think what it was. College kids. Is there a gender that
oh, that's right. Yeah.
so your
So
data, is it telling you, like, is it normally men, women, non-binary that download this?
it's about 50-50, which has been surprising
I
because
really I assumed stupidly and judgmentally, um, my fault completely, that it would be mostly women.
And that is what I thought too. And as
Mm,
I've advertised the app, I've been really surprised by the piece. And I guess on reflecting on it, I realized that that makes a lot of sense if you think about it from a man's perspective. Because as men, we are never told what to look for and how to filter the female partners. Men, as a society, all we're told is get the hottest woman, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like there's no other criteria to evaluate them with. So it's been really interesting because I think a
I
lot of
mean,
young.
I hope that's not the case for everyone. That's scary, but I'm sure that is the case for a lot of people. But that's a scary world, and I also think men don't always have someone to talk to. I don't think you're as talking about feelingsy. So if I have a problem with someone, I will go and talk to my mother, my sister, my friends. There's a barrage of people I can talk to. But I think for men, having that fallback of an app that they can ask, they might feel stupid going to their brother or their mother. I just feel like that there is a difference between men and women sometimes, and women speak more about things. So possibly it is a good idea to have a fallback for an app, and that's why men are using it as well.
Yeah, I think that could be part of it too. I think it's just that men historically, this just isn't something we talk about.
Mm.
It's not a real focal point because in our world, the fantasy is you spend all this time trying to win the princess. You don't think about anything beyond my goal is to win the princess. You don't think about maybe these other things about how the
You
princess
don't
shows
assume
up.
she will be abusive because that's it's such a recent thing that we've been made so much more aware. When I was a kid, I would have assumed abusive men. Abusive men was what I saw on telly. Never really saw abusive women. So I think we've been lulled into this false sense of security that it's generally a man thing. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the time it is a man thing, but it is the other way round as well. And I think because we've been we've been geared up to think that all of them years. It must be hard to if you're a man going through abuse, to say actually it is happening to me, because in everyone's head we've been geared up to think that that's not something that men deal with.
Oh my God. That is one of the things that has driven me crazy the last 2 years. Our society in general, a man cannot be a victim.
Mm.
I've gone to the police station to try and report my ex for stalking and harassment. Months. I had proof, pictures, showed it to them. Oh, I'm sorry, because she's not saying it's her, we can't do anything.
Mm.
Then I had my middle child, and I'll use the word kidnapped because that's what happened. An armed guard was hired by certain people to take my custody of my middle child from me, who I had full custody of for 4 years. And I went to the police. They showed up. They wouldn't do anything. This is a civil matter, sir. You need to get the courts involved. Every time I've gone to the police in my life to try and get some reciprocity for being victimized in a very direct and bad way, they have not done anything. Like, literally have not done anything.
I can't say it's 100% different for women, because that's the experience I've had over the years, which is crazy, because you think when the police know someone's doing something to you, that they're going to automatically help you. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. But I can imagine there is a tendency for them to help women in domestic abuse situations possibly more than they do men, because they still have that brain set.
Oh, absolutely. I think the tough thing really is too that if you're dating someone that's a really sophisticated manipulator, they can utilize that societal imbalance. You know what I mean? That and use that to their benefit. So it's
Yeah, because we stigmatize, we have this idea that you're well spoken, well dressed, you'll be a better person, and a homeless person or someone on the street won't be as good of a, which is completely arse upwards. It is probably completely the other way around. But that's why people tend to get away with it, because they are very good master manipulators. They walk the walk, talk the talk, and they blend in with society, and they make the other person look crazy.
well, yeah, and especially if you have like my ex was wonderful at being the type of person that virtue signals
Mm.
and virtue signals in these very over the, very openly public ways, so that when they did these other kind of messed up things, that everyone was like, well, look at the nice things this person does. They would never do mean things to you. What are you talking about? Yeah, so it is what it is. I think that's the wonderful thing about the app, at least I'm hoping, is that it will change all these like hidden in the shadows type of stuff and help people gain some clarity, because until we recognize the bad behaviors and the patterns, we're going to keep living in that bad world where these things keep having an impact on us until we recognize them and can do things to kind of start cutting them out.
Do you think now you would recognize them?
I think now I am so guarded after what I've been through that it has made dating so hard, because I recognize the red flags so quickly
Mm.
that now I have a really hard time connecting to people, because I'm really authentic and I'm really genuine. And when I notice someone showing up not genuine, that's an immediate exit for me.
Yeah. I
It's
think it's really hard. I think I don't even know. I think relationships are a minefield for a lot of people. Relationships always were, but now then you put on this online, I get people that are using the app are probably people that haven't even met their significant other, because their significant other or their person they're seeing is someone online that could be hiding behind any facade. And I'm not saying all online relationships are bad. So many people I know have had, from what I know, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I've had fruitful relationships from meeting online, and it's very much a present day thing. But it's scary.
Oh, for sure. I think if you meet someone online through an interest group, I think that's much different than meeting someone online through a dating app. So
Yeah,
I don't,
it's like, yeah.
Yeah, because you have to have similar interests. You have to have things that you're into. And so if you meet online that way, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But, the dating apps just provide a great way to, have dating experience, that is a bad experience for you.
So, do you think that this app will impact the world in a positive way?
That's my goal. I want to I want Cray to become a household name
Hmm.
where people now use the term Cray score or schemer score or base. They have those concepts in their head that have been drilled in because of the app. And it just creates a better society, really, because now we're all being self advocates in the dating experience and being mindful about how we're showing up. It's going to be an uphill battle because getting people to own their shit is really difficult. You have to really be in the mindset that you want to improve yourself versus, oh, I just want to go around hooking up. So you do have to have the desire for self improvement or self betterment. But I do believe that once people understand the product, they'll want to engage with it because I think deep down inside as humans, we do want to end up in a better place. We just don't want a lot of friction trying to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we want the easy, quick, we can order Amazon to our door and it be here within 2 hours. So we always want the quick fix and not the more difficult one. Do you feel like if your children couldn't speak to you at a certain age, you would be happy for them to use an app like that? You'd be glad that that app's around?
Absolutely. That's one of the lasting gifts that I'm hoping I give the world is, that I put this into the ether, so to speak, and that it stays around for a long time and it helps a lot of people, including my kids. So we'll see. I think the reaction I've gotten from it so far from everyone has been really positive. Uh, I do get some occasional negative reviews, but I have a feeling that's from people who are concerned they're going to be outed by the app and
Mm.
want to.
What do they say? What is their negative review? What is their problem?
So on Instagram, some of the comments have been, "Oh, this is a dumb app. Oh, this is low IQ.
Oh, so
Oh,
nothing really substantial.
no." And they'll even say things like, "Oh, this is a vibe coded app." And it's like, bro, if you saw how much I've spent on the development of this, I wish it was a vibe coded app.
Has it been very expensive to create?
I've because I've had to do different iterations and I
Yeah.
had to create a web version. In between all the development costs, I'd say it was about $100,000.
Wow.
I know it's expensive
But has
creating
it given
software.
you some purpose? Is it been cathartic for you?
100%, and going on podcasts and talking about my life experience because for about 2 years of my life, my support system wanted to hear nothing about what I've been through. They wanted to
Yeah.
hear nothing about my app that I've built. So this has been very rewarding because I get to talk about the things that I haven't been able to talk about. But more importantly, I now get to promote an app that can save lives. Like the crazy thing to think about is 1,000 people have it now. That's 1,000 people who I'm saving from pain, who I'm
Hmm.
saving from
Well,
trauma.
hopefully they don't all get a red flag. Hopefully some of them put it in and they get green flags. Let's hope.
Well, of course, but just
But
more so the.
for someone to download the app, there must be that you're not going to download it for fun and be like, oh, let's do a fun quiz on you and see if you got. I don't know. Maybe some people do. But you must have something in the back of your mind for you to download that app.
Oh, of course. And I think just the idea that I could have a positive impact that's meaningful on 1,000 lives or 10,000 lives or 100, just to be able to do that with releasing this is really cool to me. I mean, there's not many people who can go through their life and say they've touched 1,000 lives in a way that is meaningful. Just like, I don't know if you've seen the website, I have that song that one of the homeless people wrote about me for the homeless outreach. And having someone do that, like how many people can say they have a song written, about them by
I
another
think when
person?
you've been the child that you've been, I think I see that about you. I think you've gained an amazing sense of validation from this, and you feel like you've had purpose, and you probably haven't been allowed to feel that you've had purpose before, and you're doing something that is making a difference. So I think that this is such a big pivotal thing for you.
Oh, 100%. There's something to be said with building something all on your own from scratch and seeing it become successful, because you have this sense of confidence or accomplishment where you're like, yeah, I did that. That was all me. Like I did that, and it's a very rewarding thing to know that, for me, that not only did I do this, but I did it when my whole world was trying to destroy me. I
Yeah.
did it while I was fighting 4 different legal cases. It's a lot. That's why at this point I feel superhuman. Like, you could put me anywhere in this world and I'd get out of it after what I've been through. I wholeheartedly believe that, because that's the thing about pulling yourself out of that deepest pit of like everything falling apart. Like,
You
you've
can't get worse.
you've literally seen the worst. There's nothing you could throw at me that like could beat me. Like,
Yeah.
no, I will beat you and you will literally crumble, because I have done everything I need to get out of the situation I was in.
Yeah. Have you got any, I've got ADHD. I forget so many things that I could have asked, and I come off and I think, shit, I wish I would have asked that. Is there anything that you want to say, or that you feel I've left out, or a message that you want to leave the listeners with?
One of the ones I like to mention, because healing is such a up and down journey, give yourself grace. Like, it's not going to be tomorrow that everything gets fixed. It's not going to be that you suddenly have this magical moment. It's an uphill battle, and you're pulling yourself out of the pit, and it's going to be, rocks that you're trying to climb up, and it's sliding down, and you're falling back a few feet. Don't get discouraged, because it's a process, and the pain is part of what makes the healing journey stick. So
People
don't.
say to me, when am I going to have healed? And I say, you may never. Who knows? But you're on the journey, and that's all that matters, is that you boarded the bus.
Yeah, and that you're mindful about the fact that you want to be on that journey. You know what I mean? Because, like, sitting in the suck, that's a term I use. Like, we have to sit in the suck, because if we don't, how are you feeling all colors of the rainbow then? If you're not
Yeah,
sitting
I
in the
said that
pain of it.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's true. I mean, how are you supposed to heal if you don't feel the pain and you don't experience that negative feeling?
Where can we find you? What is your best platform to find you on? What is the app called? I know it's called Cray, but it's for you to reiterate where we can find it, and etc. If anyone's
Sure.
interested in using it.
Yeah, the website is cray.app, cray.app. And if they want to find us on any of the social media platforms, that's our handle on each of the platforms too. So we're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, pretty much every
And in
platform.
App Store, like Apple App Store, do you just download the app? Like, if I put in Cray, it will
Yep.
provide.
And you'll see the fox holding the red flag with the logo. If people haven't seen it, obviously they probably haven't since they're listening to the podcast, but the branding was a huge part of it, and what I think makes the app really unique and fun. And it's going to be what is the thing that finally makes this turn into a worldwide thing, I think. Because it takes a very difficult topic, which is relationship issues, and disarms it by making it fun and funny and entertaining by, seeing the fox dress up
Because
in a
we have,
costume.
because what
Yeah.
else are we going to do?
Well, and that's the thing. We've tried doing this in a serious way for decades, and it hasn't worked. So, putting humor on it, I think, will be the thing that makes this into the magical thing that kids want to engage with, and learn from. And it's not going to be this boring, product that is.
Lecture like you'd get from your parents or something. It's
Yes.
more accessible, and you don't have to tell everyone. You could just download an app and put your thoughts in and see what happens.
Exactly, exactly. So that's one of the nice things about it for sure.
Is there other apps like it, or is this kind of a truly one of a kind?
Truly one of a kind. The
Wow.
closest thing to it was T, which was basically a public defamation app. You would anonymously review a partner and shit talk them and post it publicly.
Yeah.
This is the complete opposite version. It's everything is
Is it
internal.
not? Is it anonymous? So when I
Yeah.
sign up, I give my email address, but the person that I'm talking about will remain absolutely anonymous.
Yeah, they will never see any of this information. Nothing is posted publicly. This is all stays on your phone, and your phone even will be disallowed from screenshotting any of the information in the app. So that
That is a good thing. I was going to ask you that and I'd completely forgot. That is very good. So that you can't screenshot anything?
nope, because the goal was not to turn this into a I'm going to go around and,
A witch
make
hunt.
someone look bad. Yeah, because that's not what it's about. This
And
is
also,
about
someone may be looking through your phone. That people have looked through my phone in my lives, and I've looked through phones as well at points. And if somebody sees that, you could be in trouble. So I get for many reasons why that can't be a thing. It would be very problematic.
Oh, for sure. And, think about it from a abusive relationship standpoint where, the partner is in the bathroom typing it out, getting the report, and the person comes in. I mean, you want to be able to give guidance in bad situations and provide people with a meaningful resource that, can save them in those situations.
I guess people could have come out with this app, a similar idea, but made it allow screenshotting and made you be able to use names and you could take them to public forums. If you was just out for yourself, you could do a bigger, more attractive thing where you could create a lot more drama, and because that would work better because people want that. But I think the way you've done it, not allowing screenshots and that, I think that's definitely a safer option.
Yeah, I wanted this to be really about self improvement and the focus being on self and being in a better situation, the dating experience.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that if I was treating this as a drama tool, for lack of a better term.
Which a lot of
Um,
people would. I think the way we live now, a lot of people would take that because you would make more money from a drama tool.
well, yeah, and that's literally the problem with society now. The only way that most people think that, oh, if I'm going to get noticed, I need to do something crazy and different and weird so that people stop in shock and notice me.
Mm.
And that's not what I was going for at all. I wanted this to be like the secret, hint or tip you get from your friend at school who's like, "Hey, you need to check out this app. This is fucking amazing, seriously." And they tell their friend about it, and that's how the app gets big, is through that it's such a helpful tool that people can't help but share that it exists with their
Because
friends.
sometimes, your children or your friends, they don't take advice from you. I never took advice from my mum. She could have said to me till she was blue in the face, that person's a red flag, that person's a red flag. But possibly if I don't think I would have believed it at the time, even if an app told me. But there needs to be lots of different ways. So it can only be helpful, I'm guessing. And unless you show me some evidence that it's been very unhelpful, we'll leave with the fact that it's got to be a positive. Until anyone brings anything other, I'm taking it as a positive thing. I'm going to use it. I wish I had someone to use it on.
That's the great
No,
thing, though. You
no,
can
I
use it.
don't.
You can use it now and get used to the questions, and that's one of the things I actually recommend people is they use it before they're in a relationship, because as you go through and answer the questions, those questions are now embedded
Stuck
in
in
your
your mind, and
brain.
you know that they're a
Yes.
red flag.
Yes. So now when you meet people, because you've seen the questions, it now is stuck in your head. And now that becomes part of the criteria that you evaluate people on. And if you use the app enough, then you're in a great situation because now you've memorized them. And now it just is baked into part of your evaluation process and you don't even think about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Honestly, Justin, thank you so much for joining me and being so open about your experience and
Oh, of
taking
course.
something that has been such a shitty experience and turning it into something positive. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, listeners. you stay there, Justin, if that's okay. And I will just press, the end button.
Sounds good.